So we got 91 days. My God, that's easy. We'll sleep when we're dead.
And the crowd went wild. You think he picked up that line in communist China where they murdered 75 million of their own people and enslaved millions to this day? They love death more than we love life. They're the anti-life party. Bam, 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 bam. The Daily Wire had the story. Tim Walz signed bill stripping anti-pedophile language from Minnesota's Human Rights Act. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, signed a bill last year that removed language clarifying that pedophiles were people excluded from the definition of sexual orientation. See, because they wanted to protect people from discrimination based on their sexual orientation. And Republicans built in language saying, well, we're not talking about child molesters, we're not talking about pedophiles, right? And the Democrats fought vociferously to remove that language so that Walz could sign the bill. Walz was tapped as Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate on Tuesday, prompting scrutiny of his progressive record on LGBT and other issues. On May 19th of last year, Walz signed the Judiciary and Public Safety Bill, which included the Take Pride Act, not in America or Western civilization or anything, which had an amendment that updated the definition of quote, sexual orientation, end quote. And it turns out, previously Minnesota law had taken pains to explicitly exclude pedophiles from the definition of sexual orientation, making it clear that pedophiles are not part of the same protected category as gay people, for example. Sexual orientation does not include a physical or a sexual attachment to children by an adult, read the old version of the law. That sentence was struck in the new version by the Democrats in the State House there. And in the law that Walz signed, Minnesota now simply defines sexual orientation as to whom someone is or is perceived of being emotionally, physically, or sexually attracted to based on sex or gender identity. A person may be attracted to men, women, both, neither, or to people who are genderqueer, androgynous, or to have other gender identities, which I believe all Democrats do now, don't they? The Take Pride Act also added a definition of gender identity to Minnesota law, defining it as a person's inherent sense of being a man, woman, both, or neither, that may or may not correspond to their assigned sex at birth, or to their primary or secondary sex characteristics, and is not necessarily visible to others. Woohoo! Unless you lift up your skirt there and then, oh, wee-ha! There you got the, never know what's going to happen there. So the Minnesota Department of Human Rights said the bill removes outdated language that wrongly prejudices LGBTQIA plus community members by attempting to tie sexual orientation to criminal acts. They just updated the outdated language, and then the governor signed the bill. And if you look at Snopes says none of this is true, but they don't explain because Snopes is a corrupt Democrat Party front group. And again, he signed a bill as governor, making Minnesota a sanctuary state for child sex changes. It's always the children, isn't it? I'm telling you. What is their program called? It's Leave No Childs Behind. Leave No Childs Behind. That's their program, isn't it? I think that's the thing. It reminds me of a joke about the military in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, they have a military, not much of a military, but they have a military, and They like to bring, young Ben Dover, the cabin boy, out into the desert to do their dirty work for them and all that stuff. They say the old joke about the Saudi military is, in the Saudi military, how do they separate the men from the boys? How do they separate the men from the boys? With a crowbar. With a crowbar is that's how you separate the men from the boys in the Saudi military, is with a crowbar. Leave no childs behind. And the Democrat Party, they're following closely. They're drafting the pretty amazing times we're living in. Not the Democrat Party that we used to have. I'll tell you that much. Let me tell you this. All right, let's see. I've got, what time is it? 11 minutes out. I still haven't gotten to President Trump. And let's start with President Trump. Let's go to number one. We made it soundbite number one. President Trump, at his press conference at Mar-a-Lago yesterday, he held a 63-minute press conference. And we will, I'm going to play probably the entire Kamala Harris press conference, because that doesn't take very long, and it wasn't really a press conference at all. Well, let's go to soundbite one. President Trump, you'd rather use, I can see your face. Let's go to the President Trump. President Trump at the press conference yesterday. It kind of sets up the Kamala Harris press conference a little better. President Trump, Mar-a-Lago yesterday, a 63-minute press conference in which he took 42 questions from reporters that were all over the place. Some of the questions were perfectly good questions. Some of them were left-wing idiot in the crowd, typical news media questions. President Trump yesterday at Mar-a-Lago.
I think it's very important to have debates, and we've agreed with Fox on a date of September 4th. We've agreed with NBC, fairly full agreement, subject to them, on September 10th. And we've agreed with ABC on September 25th. So we have those three dates, and those networks, they're very anxiously awaiting that date and those dates. So we have September 4th, September 10th, and September 25th. We have spoken to the heads of the network, and it's all been confirmed.
The network now, the New York Post has the story correctly framed. Trump says he's accepted 3 debates against Harris and gives dates. And you just heard that, of course. Former President Donald Trump said on Thursday he's agreed to 3 debates against Vice President Kamala Harris, including one hosted by ABC News that he previously cast doubt upon. The 3 debates will occur September 4th on Fox News, September 10th on ABC News, and September 25th on NBC, right, on NBC. And that all sounds well and good, right, except that Kamala, she doesn't really want to debate very much. And here's CBS News' headline. Trump and Harris will debate on September 10th. That sounds like one date, as Trump proposes 2 more dates. So CBS News carrying water for the Democrat candidate. Is she the actual nominee? Because they have this fake process where they kicked out Joe Biden, who won the primaries and became the nominee through the primary process, but they don't believe in democracy. So they murdered democracy. And then they invented this fake thing where suddenly Joe Biden is kicked to the curb and Kamala Harris becomes the anointed one. Remarkable stuff. CBS Fake News reports Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump proposed 3 presidential debates on 3 different television networks in September. Among them, an ABC News debate he had previously dropped out of after President Biden exited the race. Well, he didn't drop out of it. Joe Biden dropped out of it. So CBS News opens with a lie. He didn't drop out of a debate. Joe Biden was no longer the nominee. Joe Biden was no longer in the race. There would be no reason to debate someone who's not the nominee. And so that debate was off, not because President Trump dropped out, CBS News, but because Joe Biden stepped aside and passed the torch. Those are the party-issued words that are supposed to be used. Speaking with reporters from Mar-a-Lago Resort in Florida on Thursday, Trump said his campaign has agreed to 3 debates to be hosted by Fox News, ABC News, and NBC News. Then Why'd you say he dropped out of the? He didn't drop out after President Biden exited. It was Biden that dropped out. But open with a lie. Open with a lie. Now, let's go to Kamala. Because Kamala, with Air Force Two behind her on a campaign stop, decided it was in Detroit, I believe, in Detroit, Michigan. And Kamala came over to the cackling press and offered them about a minute and a half of nuggets of wisdom. And one of the things that she responded to, nothing about confiscating firearms, mandatory buyback program, mandatory. Democrats don't care what you do as long as it's mandatory. And what they do not want to mandate, they want to ban. So here is Kamala. Kamala yesterday on the tarmac talking briefly to some reporters that are following her around to give her a tongue bath every day. And it sounded like this.
President Trump had a press conference today. He talked about a lot of things. I wonder if you have a reaction to what he talked about.
Well, I'm glad that he's finally agreed to a debate on September 10th. I'm looking forward to
Lie.
it.
Lie.
So that,
Are you open to more debates?
I am happy to have that conversation about an additional debate for after September 10th, for sure.
But most of the more debates.
Like I said, happy to have that conversation.
Why do you think he pulled out of the debate? Why do you
I am beyond trying to speculate about how many days. What else?
Can you comment on some of his other criticisms? He made a whole litany of them today. Some of them are about your...
I was busy talking to voters. I didn't hear him.
Some of the criticism has been about your vice presidential pick and his leading the National Guard at 24 years. Vance said that he deserted his own troops for his own colleagues. What's your take on that?
Listen, I praise anyone who has presented themselves to serve our country. And I think that we all should.
Matter of fact, President, there's been a lot of questions about when you're going to sit down for your first interview since being...
Listen to this one.
I've talked to my team. I want us to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month.
Thank you.
That's it. That's the whole thing. She wants to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month. Today is the 9th of August. The end of the month is weeks and weeks away. And she wants to schedule one, not do an interview. She's not. That means she says she's not going to do an interview until the end of the month and beyond. So she's not going to, and that was it. And they do it with the loud plane noise, which the Democrats love to do because they're communists and they don't want an actual usable official record of what she says. And didn't the filthy hack just lie that, hey, President Trump says 3 debates. Well, I'm glad he's finally agreed to do a debate. Well, he agreed to do a debate with Joe Biden, and then Joe Biden was kicked out by Barack Obama, who's the real Svengali, the real Vladimir Lenin behind the curtain here. Glad that he's finally agreed to do a debate. He agreed to do a debate, and then Joe Biden dropped out of the race. So who's he supposed to debate? The White House chief of staff? What is that? What a bunch of hooey that is. And then these softball questions, these fluffball questions, these tongue bath questions. And I'm glad to do one debate, she says. Well, he just said 3 debates. And did you hear the press not pressure her on that? The news media traveling with her did not press her. Well, he says 3 debates. Are you going to do 3 debates? Well, I'm glad he's decided to do 1. He agreed to the debates. And then your candidate died. His brain died. His brain, she's a no good. That brain of his is a no good. Isn't that amazing? You guys, I just got to say, you guys. And that's the sum total of 18 days of her as the presumptive Democrat nominee. That's the sum total of her interaction with the press. And it was, how long was it, Jeff? 90 seconds, about 90 seconds, and that's the grand total. President Trump, 63 minutes yesterday, 42 questions, audio that you could hear, that you could use because there are microphones. The news media has lost the ability to operate microphones, too, and the Democrat Party as well. You know that Eden Pure is having their famous BOGO deal on Thunderstorm air purifiers, the buy one, get one free deal. You know, when you buy 1 Thunderstorm, you get 1 for free. No matter how many you buy, you get an equal number for free. If you buy 2, you get 2 for free. If you buy 15, you get 15 for free. You might not need 30, but, you could get 10 for around the house and as gifts and everything. The Thunderstorm will help to completely eliminate any smelly odor. even the worst odors like, litter boxes and your mother-in-law's cooking and left-wing protesters. The O3 molecules seek out and destroy these nasty odors, even behind and underneath furniture. Nothing can hide from the thunderstorm, and right now, it's time to order because Eden Pure's buy one, get one free sale is on for a limited time only, so don't wait, don't dither. Come on, act now. With thousands of 5-star reviews online, we've got 2 of them at home ourselves. It works like a champ. People are buying several for around the whole home, at the office, in the kids' apartment. Just go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code ChrisBogo, ChrisBogo, buy one, get one. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ChrisBogo. Yes, sir. Hey, it's Friday. We're on the glide slope to the weekend. The country's gone mad. The world has gone mad. Is Joe Biden in charge? Stay right there.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
And there is new police body cam video footage out from the day that Donald Trump was shot in Pennsylvania. I want to share that with you and update you on that. First, let's go to the phones, Jeff. Let's go to Steve calling from Rockford, Illinois. Steve-O, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Oh, hi, Chris. Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to mention about the Democratic Party and their version of democracy, where they're using superdelegates. They've got 15% of the vote is saved for what they call, in their own words, it says the embodiment of the institutional Democratic Party. Anyone from former presidents, congressional leaders, and big money fundraisers to mayors, labor leaders, and long-term local party functionaries, end quote. So Chris, if you and I were to go vote in the Democratic Party, our vote is only worth 0.85%. They save 15% for those, what do they call them, institutional Democratic Party leaders.
The party bosses.
So that's their version of, right, that's their version of democracy. So it would actually take a 65% vote or a two-thirds majority to overcome the institutional Democratic Party. Now, also, let's not forget, they know it's so solid that even when Hillary was running in the primaries, they gave her access to the funds before the primary even occurred. Right now, that party also, this party that's so concerned about democracy.
Running out of time on you there, Steve. It's true. They had to destroy democracy in order to save it, Steve.
This is the Chris Plante Show.
Bam, 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 bam. A non-binary Team USA athlete wears a mask, sunglasses, and green and purple hair during the Paris Olympics because, why wouldn't you? And it's kind of a crew cut with green on one side and purple on the other side. And say a mask, it's more like a ski mask or a terrorist mask, and then these rainbow-colored goggles, and it's the women's heptathlon. And the American is dressed like something from science fiction because, non-binary. You got to be non-binary, don't you? Because it's all about being non-binary. Who isn't non-binary? I think every Democrat is non-binary. Raven Saunders, purple and green hair. Looks like going skiing, but it's the Summer Olympics on a track and field event. And the goggles and so on. Pretty amazing stuff, I got to say. But that's what the Democrats have done to gender and the Olympics. They're kind of peculiar people. A Democrat California State Senator, Marie Alvarado Gil, is switching parties, leaving the Democrat Party and becoming a Republican in the middle of her term as a California state senator, elected as a Democrat, and announced that she's becoming a Republican. Two sources who provided the information on the condition they remain anonymous. Absolutely. Everybody's got to remain anonymous. I'm going to do the rest of the radio broadcast anonymously because I don't want my identity known. So the Democratic state senators were called into an emergency caucus meeting late Thursday afternoon, and it was related to Alvarado Gil's party affiliation change. It's the first time in 80 years that a Democratic state lawmaker has switched their party affiliation to Republican in the middle of their term, according to the California State Library. I assume they mean that first time in 80 years in the state of California. But they don't say that because they're all illiterate. A minor problem in the scheme of things, to be sure. But there it is. Isn't that amazing? All right, let's get to more President Trump, because President Trump did hold a press conference for 63 minutes yesterday and took 42 questions, and he had a lot of stuff. Well, I'll get to it as we go, but he talked about the crowd size. He loves crowd size talk. Probably shouldn't spend a lot of time talking about crowd size. Not really relevant to anything or anyone, but never mind that. Talked about crowd, and he said his crowd size of his crowd on January 6th, not really one of the, he said nobody was killed on January 6th. Ashley Babbitt was killed. But he said his crowd size was bigger than Martin Luther King's. You know, his address on the mall, and I Have a Dream, and bigger than Martin Luther King. Not really a good presidential campaign talking point, I'm thinking, but that's okay. He said that was okay, that Martin Luther King. He said because he likes Martin Luther King. I thought, I'm sorry, are you campaigning for president in 2024? Because you might want to talk about the economy and gas prices and the border and things, but Martin Luther King crowd size on the mall. Half century ago, maybe not the most. I'm just saying. President Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate, one of the great estates in the United States of America, a 63-minute press conference where he took 42 questions. President Trump.
Are you worried at all about the size of Harris's crowds?
Oh, give me a break. Listen, I had 107,000 people in New Jersey. You didn't report it. I'm so glad you asked. What did she have yesterday? 2,000 people? If I ever had 2,000 people, you'd say my campaign is finished.
Yeah, and that's true, although the crowd that they had was much larger than 2,000 people. But point made, I suppose, talking about crowd size. Crowd size is not really, but the question was there. He spent a lot of time talking about it. President Trump at his press conference yesterday.
Both gangs on the street and, frankly, gangs outside of our country in the form of other countries that are, frankly, very powerful. They're very powerful countries, and we don't know what we're doing. We have leadership that has no clue how to handle them or how to handle any other situation.
The open borders, the Venezuelan gangs, there was another story just the other day. I was on the sea cruise about Latin American gangs in the Detroit area terrorizing, marauding, because Joe Biden and the Democrats waved foreign gangs into the country by the thousands, and they think that's neat or something. It makes them open-minded. More rapes, more murders, more home invasions, more gang activity. Not in the English language, which makes it more challenging for law enforcement and everybody else. But absolutely amazing. And on the economy, now talk about the economy. Talk about your great economy when you were president, the awful economy under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Talk about the crime, by all means. Talk about the gangs, to be sure. Talk about the things that matter to the American people. And look, if you're already a huge Trump supporter, and a great many people are, you're going to laugh at some of his stuff about the crime, the crowd size and that stuff, because some of it's pretty funny, and it is. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is bringing in more voters that want to vote for you by reminding them that things were better when you were president and less crime, fewer gangs. Our border was secure. We had national sovereignty. We had 1.2% inflation, 1.4% on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden drove it to 9.1%. It's still at more than twice what it was the day that Joe Biden was inaugurated, at 3% inflation. And try getting a mortgage now and so on. But in any case, President Trump talking about the economy and the mayhem around the world under Joe Biden, war in Europe with Ukraine and Russia, war in the Middle East with everybody involved, broader war still coming, waiting for Iran to take further radical Islamic action. And let's talk about that. President Trump yesterday.
We have a lot of bad things coming up. You could end up in a depression of the 1929 variety, which would be a devastating thing. Took many years, took decades to recover from it. And we're very close to that. And we're very close to a world war. In my opinion, we're very close to a world war. We have people that don't know how to handle it. They're not respected. All over the world, they're laughed at. And we can't have that. Most dangerous period of time I've ever seen for our country.
And now that's true, and people feel that in our bones. We, that's the topic of discussion at the dinner table and over beers, and so I'm already thinking about over beers because it's Friday, But that's right, and I did a great job for most of the 63 minutes. I'd just like to tell them to focus on the things that matter to me, to you, and to the American people, on the economy, and on national security, and personal security, and on crime, and what the Democrats are doing to our cities, and focus on the issues that matter. I find it frustrating sometimes, as you may have detected. And then telling the truth about Kamala that the news media should be talking about, but aren't. She allegedly ran for president in 2019 and 2020. Not sure she made it to 2020, where she said she was going to have a mandatory gun buyback across the country, which ought to be in Russian. Just amazing. But President Trump pointed out a thing or two about her. She didn't last long enough to even participate in one primary, 2019-2020 election, and this time she didn't get a single vote either.
We have somebody that hasn't received one vote for president, and she's running, and that's fine with me. But we were given Joe Biden, and now we're given somebody else. And I think, frankly, I'd rather be running against somebody else. But that was their choice. They decided to do that because Kamala's record is horrible. She's a radical left person at a level that nobody's seen. She picked a radical left man.
Well, that's true. She's radical left, and she picked an even more radical left Democrat, a socialist, I would say, says socialism is like neighborliness. Sure, if Mr. Rogers were a psycho killer, that might be the case. President Trump describing Governor Walz.
He has positions that are just it's not even possible to believe that they exist. He's going for things that nobody's ever even heard of. Heavy into the transgender world, heavy into lots of different worlds having to do with safety. He doesn't want to have borders. He doesn't want to have walls. He doesn't want to have any form of safety for our country. He doesn't mind people coming in from prisons, and neither does she.
Yeah, that's that's a fact. That's all true. That's all 100% true. It's he's got a winning hand. And I keep hearing him, and I hear from friends, and I see it elsewhere too. Just focus on the issues, the bread and butter issues, the kitchen table issues, as they're called in politics, the things that matter, and crime, open borders, and point out that President Obama threatened the fundamental transformation of America and warned us all that we better learn to speak Spanish. And now we see Obama's behind the curtain here, although don't run against Obama, run against Kamala. But it's worth mentioning, glancingly at least from time to time, that the Democrat Party's machine behind the curtain, the power brokers, they used to be smoke-filled rooms. Now they're formerly smoke-filled rooms. Now they're vape-filled rooms or something. Who knows what they're smoking? Pretty amazing stuff. We were just talking about the Democrats the left is coming for your rights, coming for your First Amendment rights, your free speech rights. I played Tim Walz on MSDNC saying, free speech, you're not protected if it's hate speech or misinformation. Well, then MSNBC would be off the air today based on that, and most of CNN too, but never mind that. And my friend Brian reminded me, Dave Chappelle, who's great, he's from Washington, D.C., Dave Chappelle said the First Amendment is first for a reason. The Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out. And something like that is entirely true, but the Democrats are coming for all of them at the same time. They're not on the side of our rights. They're not supporters of our rights. Now, speaking of which, I want to get to the update of the body cam video that has come out of the local police in Pennsylvania the day that President Trump was shot while delivering a speech, having a political rally and an event. And new police body cam footage has come out from J13, as we call it. They call it J13. And you've got local police in Pennsylvania body cam video that came out. And there's still a lot of questions. There are still a lot of questions that remain unanswered. But I got a couple of things to say about this because, interestingly, there are a couple of developments. So I want to play this audio of the body cam video that has come out from the local police there. And the thing is, I'm not even 100% sure which body cam, which department it's from, because there are 3 different local police departments, apparently. We're talking about Butler County Police, the Butler City Police, and then they have the Butler Township Police, overlapping police departments. And there are a couple of revelations that are important because, Secret Service been taking a beating. The local police, they had a couple of local police on TV, and they're blaming the Secret Service. There are a lot of questions that still need to be answered. We've already had congressional action and so on. But let's play. It is soundbite number 22, right? The body cam video. We still have to. We have a lot of questions about this body cam video, but the new body cam footage shows officers confronting the gunman, the shooter, during the Trump assassination attempt. And the body cam video, it's kind of peculiar because there are about 5 minutes of body cam video, but there's no audio for at least the first couple of minutes. And that's unacceptable. And then the audio kicks in. Well, who released that video with the audio edited out? Because that's a very serious question. I was reminded of Rosemary Woods and Richard Nixon's office and the missing, 18-minute gap in the Oval Office tapes. But here is the audio of the video from the police. This is where we hit the button.
No. Is he a shooter? Did he have a weapon? Is he? That was the report. I thought you were on the roof. I thought it was you. I thought you guys were on the roof. No, we're not. Why were we not on the roof?
Because there's football from a 16 ago somewhere over in the west coast.
Why weren't we? I'd say this is a up.
Sorry, not sure which gas company.
Somebody up.
Yeah, I think this is a beep up. Somebody beeped up. The police body cam video released yesterday, and it really just raises more questions. But let me say this, because there are a couple of things that ought to be said. The Secret Service had handed that site over to the local police, which is not unheard of. In fact, it's pretty normal. The local police had 3 snipers in and or around that building, the building where the gunman Crooks fired the shots from. The local police had 3 snipers in the building. Now, when the shots were fired and other police rushed to the building, they made their way inside the building. And it turns out, apparently, the local SWAT team was inside the building. And they had control of the building. They're inside this kind of, not too terribly sturdy metal building where maybe you would have heard the person walking on the roof. And it shows that the local police are immediately saying, where are you guys? Why weren't you on the roof? I thought you were on the roof. We got a lack of communication going on there, obviously, right? I thought you were on the roof. Beep. All right, and then we got somebody beeped up, and this is a beep up, that's for sure. And it turns out apparently the Secret Service had entrusted security at that building to local police agencies, and that there was a SWAT team there with, as I understand it, three local police snipers in the building. And there's been this shaky, fuzzy video. It's the second gunman. Apparently, it's one of the local police snipers inside the building with a rifle. And if he had peeked outside the window he was in, he would have seen the creep crawling along the roof. And the local police saying, "I thought you were on the roof. Why wasn't anybody on the roof?" And the local police were they had been assigned to cover that building, and there were a bunch of them in the building, but nobody had the roof covered. And the Secret Service is, now they're in a situation where, like, hey, the local police had that building, and they were supposed to have, when you have the building, you have the roof, because that's part of the building. They had their snipers, who are not counter snipers, that's different. The Secret Service counter sniper on a building over close to where President Trump was, fired a shot that killed the sniper. But honestly, at this point, with this body cam footage, and where's the rest of the audio from why did you blank out the audio for minutes on this tape that was released? That is unacceptable. And then they're freaking out saying, "I thought you were on the roof," the local police. They say when I've got, if I can get to it, I've got a congressman responding to this audio tape too. That's coming up.
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
I thought you were on the roof. I thought it was you. I thought you guys were on the roof.
I thought you guys were on the roof. Now, the local police look very, very bad with the addition of this body cam video, and I'd like to know why the audio is missing from the beginning of that tape. And Secret Service had given that building to the local police, and it seems pretty obvious they didn't secure it. They had the inside of the building, but nobody had I thought you had the roof. Didn't you have the roof? And then, wah, 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 wah. Good thing it wasn't worse. Have a great American weekend. Try to think positive thoughts. There are many positive thoughts we can have. I'm trying to think of one right now.